It's the evening, no? Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's Saturday evening. I'm
Evening. Morning means
And Geeta ji, you can see the screen?
yes, sir.
I'm sharing.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
clear.
the webinar is live on YouTube as well.
Oh, okay.
It's 2 minutes past 5.
Yes, ma'am.
I think you're probably good to start.
Yes. We'll start as and then the children come. Sumukh sir will. Yes, we'll start. Good evening, everyone, and a warm welcome to everyone present in this virtual session. With the blessings of His Holiness, Sri Jagadguru Sri Shivaratri Deshikendra Mahaswamiji, I would like to welcome Mr. Ajith Murthy sir, the guest lecturer for the day, who is with us to enlighten us with his speech on the future of energy. Myself, Geeta Srinivas, on behalf of JSS Public School, welcome you, sir. I would also like to welcome Dr. Olive Matthew, ma'am, from Pune, who is also amidst us. Welcome you, ma'am. Very few people have the power to educate today's youth. A good teacher teaches from the heart. I wish all my colleague teachers and those who are present in the session a very happy Teachers' Day. During the session, you will have a lot of questions to ask. Please put your questions in the chat box and it will be addressed at the end of this session. Before we start with this session, let's all seek the blessings from God. I call upon Deepa to sing the prayer song. Over to Deepa.
Thank you. Good evening to one and all present here. Sharanu, 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 Sharanu Siddhi Vinayaka, Sharanu Vedya Pradayaka, Sharanu Parvati Tanaya Murthy, Sharanu Mushika Vahana, Sharanu, Sharanu. ನಿಟಿಲ ನೇತ್ರನೆ ದೇವಿ ಸುತನೆ ನಾಗಭೂಷಣ ಪ್ರಿಯನೆ ತಟಿಲ ತಾಂಕಿತ ಕೋಮಲಾಂಗನೆ ಕರ್ಣ ಕುಂಡಲ ಧಾರನೆ ಶರಣು ಶರಣು ಬಟ್ಟ ಮೂರ್ತಿನ ಪದಕಹಾರನೆ ಬಾಹು ಹಸ್ತ ಚತುಷ್ಟನೆ ಕೀಟ ತೊಡಿಗೆಯು ಹೇಮ ಕಂಕಣ ಪಾಶ ಅಂಕುಶಧಾರನೆ ಶರಣು ಶರಣು ಕುಕ್ಷಿ ಮಹಲಂಬೋದರನೆ ಇಕ್ಷು ಚಾಪನ ಗೆಲಿದನೆ ಪಕ್ಷಿ ವಾಹನ ಸಿರಿ ಪುರಂದರ ವಿಠಲನ ನಿಜ ದಾಸನೆ ಶರಣು 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 ಸಿದ್ಧಿ ವಿನಾಯಕ ಶರಣು ವೇದ್ಯ ಪ್ರದಾಯಕ ಶರಣು ಪಾರ್ವತಿ ತನಯ ಮೂರ್ತಿ ಶರಣು ಮೂಷಿಕ ವಾಹನ ಶರಣು 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 ಶರಣು. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Deepa.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Deepa.
Over to Neeta.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, sir, for being here today. We are pleased to welcome Mr. Ajith Murthy, sir, a very special guest Sir is a petroleum geologist and MBA in international business. Sir has 30 plus years of great service of global oil and gas experience, worked in 10 countries, served as Operation Excellence Manager, Royal Dutch Shell USA. Some of the achievements are oil and gas exploration offshore India, Vietnam, Indonesia, and Malaysia. Large projects and operation management also. Performance excellence for people development and many more. And today, sir, will be sharing with us his expert opinion on the future of energy and career opportunities. With that, I ask all of them to give your full attention to Mr. Ajith Murthy, sir. Over to you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Namaste, everybody. Very nice of you to have organized. So I first thank the JSS school and the entire staff and community for inviting me and giving the opportunity to share my views. And I also am deeply honored to have one of my most influential teachers in my life, Mrs. Dr. Olive Matthews. She is joining us from Pune. It's a blessing because I think I was around this age, high school, when I met her, and she was influential in seeing us through our high school and into our career. So really blessed to have us with us. So what I'd like to do is get on with this little discussion. So, I'm really committed to safety. One of the biggest things about our energy industry is about safety first. So just a few thoughts. I know you guys are very familiar with this. We are all working from home. We are studying from home, virtual world we live in nowadays. So whenever you attend such sessions, just make sure you're sitting comfortably. It's very important. We spend hours behind computers, sitting in certain position. So that's very important. You got to make sure you're not distracted. You have something on your gas stove or electric stove. Make sure it's switched off. You make sure you have adequate lighting. And of course, mental and physical health, very important, especially when we are leading these kind of sedentary lives. And please don't text and drive. That's an appeal from my side. It's extremely dangerous, and please don't do that. So if you are dialing in from a mobile device right now, I would suggest you park somewhere safe and continue with this session. And I think, as you are probably aware, I think you can submit your questions on the chat box. Is that right, Anita ji?
Yes, sir.
And so that way we can keep track of questions coming. All right. So a little bit about myself. Thanks for the introduction, Nita ji. I'm really a Indian at heart, but a global citizen, right? So in terms of education, like Nita ji mentioned, I'm a petroleum geologist by training. I actually went to high school in Lucknow, where Dr. Olive Matthews was the principal. And so I got my high school education there and went on to do my both master's, bachelor's and master's from University of Bombay. And then I started working for a French company. And very soon in my career, I went overseas. I started working in Vietnam, Indonesia, offshore China, those kind of countries. So if you look at my career path, really it started with oil and gas exploration. And I don't know whether you can see my cursor. Can you see my cursor?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so this was all about oil and gas exploration offshore. So you had to go by helicopters 1 hour away from shore, land on platforms, and stay there for 4 weeks in the middle of the sea and do your work and come back. Then as I started maturing and started moving into other things like very large project operations management, I spent some time in India between 98 and 2000 when I was with the British Gas in India in Mumbai. That was the only time I worked in India, actually. And then I came to the US, got an MBA from Thunderbird School of Management. And soon after that, I started working for Shell here in Houston. So I've been in Houston for nearly 16, 17 years now. But as part of Shell, I've worked in several countries and worked in Shell India, both Chennai and Bangalore. We have large presence. India is a very big country for Shell, and we are very, very positive about the future of Shell and Shell's energy business in India going forward. And so right now I'm in the area of what is called as operational excellence, performance excellence, right? So I work in the US, but I also support assets and operations in Trinidad, Bolivia, and India. So that's a little bit about myself. In terms of interests, I love traveling. I've visited over 40 different countries due to work and pleasure. I'm now training to be a pilot. I'm learning flying. And in fact, 2 hours from now, I'll be getting onto my session and I'll be flying about 100 miles trying to practice. I'm very, very passionate about mentoring. And that's one of the reasons why when Geetika asked me to join this session, I was very happily, looking forward to that. So I am involved in a couple of mentoring organizations here in the US. And I also advise several startups on various aspects. Although I'm an oil and gas person, I'm a petroleum geologist. I truly believe the future is in alternative energies, in renewables. And that's a reason why I have a Tesla. All right. Okay. So if you don't mind, please have your mobile devices ready. I know you guys have mobile devices with you all the time. So please have it ready and go to a website called www.menti.com. We're going to use this to do some online polling. We're going to ask you some questions and you just have to respond. You will be given a code, and all you need to do is when you go to menti.com, you have to put this code 67326671, right? And then it will take you to the question that has been asked. So Sumuk or Neetaji, if you can keep a note of this code, if somebody asks for it, you can put it on
Sir,
the
I have
chat
typed
box.
that in the chat box.
Excellent. All right, great. Awesome. So let's get cracking. So before we get on, I just want to see what your mood is. So can you please describe your mood this evening? You're spending a good 40 minutes, 1 hour of your Saturday evening. So how are you feeling? I just want to know. Are you feeling top of the world? Or you're feeling okay? You know what? It's it's Saturday. Weekend is almost ending. Monday is around the corner. Or you're not at all excited. So let's see what you got. So 2 people have already responded.
Ajith, I'm on top of the world.
There you go.
You are sitting there.
I didn't expect anything less than that, man.
Oh, really? Again, you said man.
I said, man. Is that okay?
Okay.
All right. So we're going to keep this polling going for a few more seconds here. Let's see. We've got about 10 participants who have said, okay, it's almost equal now. Top of the world. And so at least people are feeling excited. Very few people are saying not too excited. So that's a good sign. Is that right, Neetaji? All right. Good. So few more seconds before we close the polling and get on to the next topic. I just wanted to gauge and get a sense because I really want this to be an interactive session. So please ask your questions as we come along and I'll try to answer as much as I can, right? So we got about half the crowd, I guess. And Sumuk, do you want us to stop and get on to the next one?
We can move on to the next one, no issues.
All right. So thank you for participating. So we now get the hang of it, right? So keep this mobile device with you. We're going to have a couple more questions going down the slide pack. All right. Okay. So let's start with some good news. What's the good news? Global GDP growth is expected to turn positive in 2021 and beyond. And as you can see here, 2020 was a really bad year, right? All of us want to forget 2020. We want to forget about it. But it's expected to jump. It's already jumping, and the future is looking good. 70% of the growth in energy demand is expected to come from developing countries, Asia, Africa, India being a big part of that, right? So that's the good news. But what does it mean? It means that as growth and energy demand go up, it means we're going to have more emissions and more contribution to the global warming, right? So more energy comes with more emissions and more harm. So we got to do something different. So here's my question to you guys. Do you think global warming is real? People could say, come on, are you serious? Don't you see what's going on? Crazy weather patterns, fires, floods, freezing rain, stuff like that. Some people might say, no, it's a conspiracy. Or you don't have an opinion. So what do you think? Use the same code, 67326671. And let's see what people say. It's not coming through, is it? For some reason, we are not able to see the polling here. Let me see.
Yes, it is real. But it is the not of God.
There are 54 participants, but we're not able to see I know a lot of people are responding, but for some reason we're not able to see. I'm sorry about that. I'm trying to see if I can fix that. Anyway, I'm just hoping there are more people who say, come on, this is real, it's happening, and it's a threat that we have to handle, rather than no, it's a conspiracy and stuff like that, right? So about 20 odd people have responded. I'm hoping it is positive, and that we see this as a threat, a serious threat, and something we have to act upon, right? So let's move on. So the real question is, what's this big fuss about global warming, right? Interestingly, compared to Earth's history, 4.6 billion years, right? Earth has been around. Right now, it's unusually cold. Okay, if you look at this cycle, this is a 500 million year cycle. If you look at it, we have had very hot periods in our history, very low. This is the glacial period. We've got the interglacial, and then the hot periods. So we have had these swings, hot and cold, hot and cold. Earth has been cooling and warming up and all that. But what is really amazing or alarming is the rate of change, or the rate of increase in Earth's temperature is alarmingly high right now. We should be actually in a cool zone. We are in what is called as interglacial zone right now, but we are seeing a rapid increase in our average temperatures, and that's what is alarming, right? The pace at which it's increasing. If you look at this little map of the globe here, you see the areas where it's extremely hot. There are several places in the world that are much above average for this time of the history of our Earth's life, and even in the Arctic area, it's warming up. So this is the alarming part about what's going on. So you see, our Earth really has a fever, right? It's interesting. In the last 100 odd years, the average rate of change of temperature has been 0.07 degrees centigrade, 0.07, right? On an average, every 10 years, it's been going up. Ever since we started serious record keeping in the 1880s. But in the last, 40 years or 60 years, it's doubled the rate of change of temperature increase. It's doubled, and that's the most alarming part about this whole thing. So as you know, our body temperature, even if it goes up by a degree, we have fever, right? And if you have 2 degrees above normal temperature, you're in serious trouble. You need to go to the hospital. 2 to 3 degrees, you're in trouble. So that's the thing. Even if 1 degree goes up, Earth will have huge complications and implications. So what do you think is causing global warming, right? A lot of people talk about global warming, some don't believe in it, but I think science is now very clear. We are contributing to global warming and the temperature is going up. But what is causing this global warming? We call it the carbon dioxide effect, right? So if you look at the carbon dioxide, we as geologists, paleontologists, we have gone back in history and looking at fossils and others, we have identified what was the carbon dioxide content in the atmosphere and the oceans millions of years ago, right? This is the way in which the CO2 has moved up and down during the course of the history of the Earth. But amazingly, in the last 100 years, the rate of rise in CO2 is alarming, is literally shooting up, right? Never in the history of the Earth, 3 million years plus, CO2 is never this high. We have 410 ppm of CO2 in the atmosphere. It's higher than any point in the last 3 million years. And why is it happening? It's because of the kind of energy we use, right? Fossil fuels. So here's my question one more time. Let's see if this works. Go back to menti.com, 67326671 is your code. And I have a question for you. Have you heard of the Paris Agreement? That's a good one. Somebody said, no, what's that? Is that something to do with French fries and the French? Somebody is saying, that sounds familiar, but not sure. Okay, that's fine. If you're not sure, we can always talk about it, which is what I plan to do. There's one person who has said, of course. That's a good sign. Somebody knows about it at least. India is part of it. India has signed. So as Indians, we're all committed to making this happen. So we're going to give a few more minutes, a few more seconds rather, to try and see if we get some more responses. A lot of people are saying they don't know or they're not sure, which is absolutely fine. We can talk about it. All right, so a few more people coming in. I'm going to give a few more seconds here. All right, we have touched about half the people have responded, and a lot of people are saying, not sure what it is, I've heard about it, some saying absolutely not. So let's go and see what is the Paris Accord. And the reason it's very important is we are all committed to making something different. So the Paris Agreement or the Paris Accord was signed in 2015, and it's a legally binding international treaty on climate change. We got to do something about climate change. We got to do something about global warming, right? Who has signed up for it? 190 countries plus the European Union. India is one of them. And we have signed up and said, we are going as people, as country, each of us are going to commit to certain things. And what is the commitment? We want to limit the rise in temperature to 2 degrees, under 2 degrees, preferably 1.5 degrees Celsius, on an average for the decade before the century ends, right? So we don't want average global temperature to cross the 2 degree increment before the century ends here. So how are we going to do it? We got to intensify our commitment to reducing emissions, changing the way we use energy, the resources we use to generate energy, and we need to provide finance and other things for all these things to happen, right? So what's the future of energy going to look like? Right now, as you can see, these three, oil, natural gas, and coal, are what are called fossil fuels, right? These are fuels that were developed millions of years ago, tens of millions of years ago, by the conversion of plant or organic material. So what they did was they took carbon dioxide from the atmosphere 35, 40 million years ago, converted it into hydrocarbons, so that they trapped all the carbon dioxide and carbon. Now by burning them, we are releasing these things into the atmosphere. And that's why the CO2 content in the atmosphere is going up. And we are releasing methane, which is even worse than a carbon dioxide when it comes to trapping heat. What happens with the emission of carbon dioxide and methane is it stays in the atmosphere, it traps heat, sends back heat, and it heats up the earth, right? And that's the reason why we are seeing this precipitous rise in rate of change of temperature, right? But hopefully, you and I, mostly you guys, the youth of tomorrow, the citizens of tomorrow, you're going to change, because renewables, what we call as renewable energy, is about roughly 4-5% globally right now. This is expected to go up significantly, right? If you look at this, by 2050, we're going to start seeing a massive increase in the way we generate electricity and use energy. And this is going to mostly come from renewables. And we're going to talk about what renewables are, and we're going to talk about what does that mean for you as young citizens when you're looking for jobs and looking for opportunities to contribute to this economy, right? So that's the picture here. But really, for this to happen, I believe, and a lot of people believe, three things need to happen. Societal pressure. You as the future citizens of the world need to pressure the society, need to influence the society and the governments to make change, to transform, to bring the pressure required. That's number one. Number two, we need to have the political will and the governance and the framework for investments to happen, for the right policies to be in place, that will encourage the use of renewable energy, right? And the third element is we need innovation, and we need investment, and we need the participation of industry. So unless all these three factors come into play, we're not going to happen. We're not going to make this happen. So I believe it's really very important for us as a part of the society to influence and to transform individually how we use energy, which kind of energy we use, and those kind of things. Okay, so if you look at the global energy mix, more than 50% is used by industrial sector, manufacturing and stuff like that. Transportation is a big thing. 30% of energy we put out is used for transportation, moving us from point A to point B. Cars, scooters, buses, aeroplanes, big carriers. And so it's important that if we start changing the way we use transportation or the way we fuel transportation, we're going to make a big impact on how we spend energy. And of course, residential, commercial makes up the rest. Air conditioning our homes, heating and our homes, all that makes a big, that's all big users of energy. So if you look at the future, and this is International Energy, it's an agency, the outlook says as we go into the next decade and the decade after that, we're going to see a massive increase of consumption in the non-OECD countries. What is OECD? Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. These are some of the developed countries and developing countries. And the massive growth, which I talked about earlier, is expected to come from the non-OECD countries, like countries in Asia, countries in Africa, India, China, big countries, right? And we are going to drive the way we're going to use energy. So industrial consumption is going to go up, transportation consumption is going to go up, residential is going to go up. In India, we're going to have more people moving into cities. The rural population is going to grow. How are we going to use energy, right, in our homes and in transportation? That's really going to drive all this. So it's expected that Asia is going to lead this energy demand growth, right? If you look at India, it's expected to grow at about 3%. And so India is expected to consume 3% more than what we consumed in 2019. Now, that's a big number for a large country like India. So this is going to impact the way we influence things. And if you see here, we have oil, we have coal, we have gas, but we have renewables, right? And we see here, renewables is going to become more and more important as we go into the future. So let's see what this future of energy is going to look like. It's predicted that starting now, right, 2020, we're going to see a dramatic increase in the use of renewable energy. As you can see, this green solid line, you see here, the projections are it's going to have a very sharp, steep climb. Petroleum is going to be around. It's not that, I keep telling people, we didn't move out of Stone Age because we ran out of stones. We moved out of Stone Age because we found other things that are better for us to make wheels, for us to grind things. And similarly, I believe that we're not going to run out of oil and gas. It's going to be around 100 years, probably more than that. But it'll become so easy and so much better for us to use renewables as a source of energy that we'll start using less and less of oil and gas. And that's what is going to probably happen, right? So if you see here, the big jump, renewable is around 15% globally, but then it's going to jump double, maybe more than that as we go forward, right? That's the hope, and you guys can make it happen. So what is renewable energy? What's the definition of renewable energy? Renewable energy is often also called clean energy. And what it means is it's a form of energy that comes from natural sources or processes that are constantly replenished. It doesn't end. Oil and gas and coal are finite. We have lots of them in the world, but we're going to run out of it sometime. I don't know when, but sometime, right? Or it'll become so difficult to extract and so expensive that we're going to give it up. So whereas solar energy, the sun is going to be around forever, at least as long as it's there, we are there. After that, we're gone. Wind is going to be around forever, and we don't have to generate wind. It's always there. Solar is always there. And then, so we have onshore wind, offshore wind. We have onshore solar and offshore solar. And I'll come to that in a minute. But we also have geothermal. Geothermal is, as you know, the inside of the earth is hot. That's where volcanoes come, right? Volcanoes, when you must have seen volcanic eruptions, they throw out a lot of energy, a lot of hot gases, hot water. And so tapping the hot water that comes from the earth is called geothermal. And of course, we have hydropower. But hydropower, by many experts, is not considered strictly as renewable, because what happens is, by the way, this is a photograph of the Idukki Dam in Kerala. It was built in the 70s, I think, a master of engineering, a classic example of fantastic engineering in India. But whenever we have such massive hydroelectric power projects, it invariably changes the course of the river that's being tapped. And that disrupts a lot. It disrupts agriculture, downstream water distribution changes forever. And so in many ways, we change the way the river runs. And so some people don't consider it as a renewable, but it is renewable, really, because as long as water is there, we can always tap. And there is, of course, biomass, by burning wood, by burning garbage, we can create energy, right? And a lot of that is coming. But if you ask really the biggest sources of renewable energy right now and going forward, in my opinion, and probably a lot of them agree, scientists, is solar energy and wind energy, right? Now, solar energy, onshore solar is already very big in India. So let's go and see what's happening. So we are expect to see a massive increase of what we call as renewable energy in India. Right now, we are here by 2022, which is next year, a big jump. By 2030, 2050, it's expected to go up 4 times, right? 4-fold growth in what we call as installed capacity. And that's a big number, right? So right now, solar is only about 24% of what we use as energy source. It's going to expected to go up to 62%. So a lot of big solar projects coming up. You must have heard the one in Rajasthan, the one in Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat and other places. There's a lot of investment also coming. If you see this graph, it's in millions of dollars. Massive inflow of investment is expected to come into India, and it's already started. But by 2050, you're talking about 18 to 20 billion US dollars of investment in all kinds of renewables expected. And that is what is going to that. So it goes back to that earlier thing. So government is putting policies in place. So your government playing their role. We have investments coming in. With investment comes innovation. And of course, you and I, we have to influence each of us to start moving in the direction of using renewables. So I'm going to pause here and ask Geeta ji or Neeta ji and Sumuk if there are any questions on the chat box that we need to address before we go into this thing, the next part, which is all about what does it mean for careers in the future, right? So let me take a pause.
Children, I request in case if you have any doubts or any queries, you can directly please put into the chat box and sir will address you.
Yeah, sure. I'll try my best. All right, so let's go on. So probably we'll have questions once we start talking about careers, right? You know, the amazing thing about energy is it needs lots of skills. It needs a lot of different expertise, right? And I believe that globally, I think the energy sector is one that is really global. You see energy, I think there are about 100 countries that produce oil and gas, the last time I checked. So oil and gas is a global industry. Energy that comes out of this industry is used by all other industries. Of course, you know, you have tech and computer science and other sectors that are generating a lot of more capex in terms of revenue and other things. These industries are big, but energy is really big. So you need lots of skills. So if we just talk about, I have grouped it by engineering skills, by skills in sciences, pure sciences, or what I call applied sciences, and then of course you have functional expertise, right? So if you look at all these things, if you are a petroleum engineer, if you're a marine engineer, if you're a chemical engineer, you do mechanical engineering, software, all these educational background will have a role to play in the future of energy, in renewable energy, right? Because, and I'll come to that in a minute, but you really need people with computer skills, people who can design differently, right? Industrial design engineering is going to become big, because as we go into what we call as the IoT, right? Internet of Things, we're going to have lots of devices that are going to interact with us. We got lots of devices that collect data remotely and then send it somewhere. And from that, we're going to take decisions. So as I said here, data analytics, data science is going to be big for the energy sector. We need applied mathematics because everything, all algorithms, models, machine learning is all based on applied mathematics and physics. Material sciences is going to be massively important because material sciences is going to come up with new materials that is going to make it lighter, stronger, and more energy efficient. So for instance, batteries, right? Battery technology is going to skyrocket. We're going to have batteries that are going to drive. So we have already cars that are driven by batteries. Tesla is an example. I use my Tesla. I charge the Tesla at home in the night, and in the morning it's ready. 200 miles I can drive without recharging, and I just spend 7 cents for every kilometer I drive. So it's really making a big difference. I haven't spent more than $5, I think, in the last couple of months trying to recharge my electric vehicle. So so batteries becoming very important. We have batteries in all kinds of devices, right? So battery technology is very important. Then the question becomes, what do we do with these batteries? So recycling batteries is going to become, so recycling technology, using batteries and other materials to recycle at what we call as the circular economy, right, is going to become important. And that's where environmental science comes into play. So how do we make sure that the environment is safe, environment is protected while we are mining for these materials and using these materials, right? Geosciences is going to be very important. Geothermal is all about geosciences, right? Even otherwise, whatever CO2 that we are producing now, lots of companies are talking about capturing the CO2 and sequestering them. What does sequestering mean? Sequestering means putting it in the ground. So we are literally going to capture CO2 and use and send it into the earth, back into the earth. We're going to drill wells and pump CO2 into the earth and let it stay there. So geoscience is going to be important. Chemistry, physics, important. So what I'm trying to paint here is the renewable energy sector will need lots of different skills. And so when you guys are looking at careers or even choices they're going to make when it comes to your education, undergrad, grad, and beyond, don't limit yourself to just a few. Each of these things have a role to play, and they're big ones. And then that doesn't mean you have to be only in sciences or engineering. If you do finance, finance has a role to play. Supply chain, it's going to be so important, supply chain. As you can see already, supply chain was disrupted last year, and we see the impact of that, right? We're not getting cars on time. We're now getting household goods on time. Supply chain is very important. Legal is very important. We're going to have a lot of different ways in which we're going to generate electricity and energy and use it. And so law and other things are going to change. And of course, people development, people have to get trained differently. Different skills are going to come into play. So human development, HR, important. So what I'm trying to display here is there's a really vast range of skills that are required, and you can pick in and choose any one of them. And if you're really good at it and if you're passionate, you can excel, right? So I just wanted to put it in a slightly different way here. So if we talk about solar, right? Solar, this is actually a solar plant somewhere in Rajasthan. You see how our people are already, actually, these are some farmers, I think, who are trying to put a solar farm in their agricultural land that will drive pumps. So one of the biggest projects government of India is pursuing is making solar pumps for agriculture. You don't need electricity. You don't need generators, diesel generators and others. If you have solar power, it can power your pump. You can pump water into your farmland. So solar, onshore solar is very big. It's very common. What kind of skills you need? You need civil and construction skills. You need smart power management skills. So instrumentation, automation is going to become big, right? So electronics, electrical engineering, electronics, computer science, AI, data sciences is going to be big in solar industry. But also manufacturing. You need to, if you're going to have 60% of energy coming from solar, you need to manufacture these panels. And so manufacturing is going to be big, but also these panels are going to get better and better in efficiency. So material science is going to come into play. So that's about solar. Onshore wind is, as you see here in the picture, it's about these big turbines that are erected on land, right? Either in elevated areas or even flat land. And these are massive, massive towers. Each one of them is several stories high. These wind turbines, each what I call is the arm of the turbine, sometimes they are like 20 meters long, 50 meters long. So these are massive. So you need skills, engineering skills, wind turbine technology, civil and structural engineering to put up these big towers. To synchronize these things, you need electronics and smart management, supply chain, lots of things. So as you can see, there are lots of common elements in these kind of things. Offshore wind is a very different ball game. You're trying to install these massive things offshore, several tens of miles away into the sea or in the lake. And for this, you need marine design, because you need to make sure these structures are stable in the water, right? You have to either anchor them to the seabed, or you have to make them positioned in some way. There's something called dynamic positioning, where you use computers to drive motors that will keep these tall towers stable, even when the sea is rolling and pitching. So you need different engineering skills there: marine engineering and marine construction, ocean engineering. These kind of skills come into play when we talk about offshore wind. I don't know if anybody has any questions, but I'll continue, assuming that people are listening and getting some idea about this. Electric vehicles. I wanted to throw in electric vehicles because it's going to change the way we move, both individual transportation, cars, scooters, autos, rickshaws, but also mass transportation, buses, trains, large ways. In fact, they're even talking about small planes that can be now run on solar or other forms of energy. When you want to move very large transportation vehicles like large trucks, cruise ships, cargo ships, or big planes, hydrogen might come into play. Hydrogen has been around for a long time, but we haven't used it much. You remember, you would have seen pictures of these blips, huge hydrogen balloons that actually were used to transport people across the Atlantic. But then it went out of favor. Aeroplanes came, aeroplanes became more efficient. They could fly thousands of miles. So the blips went away, but now they're coming back. Hydrogen is big. And for hydrogen, you need chemical engineering, it's process engineering, mechanical, control automation. You need catalysts. You need people who understand catalysts, because hydrogen can be captured and converted from other gases using catalysts. So filtration, catalyst sciences, catalyst technology becomes massive, right? And then I put biomass and geothermal together, because they are small right now, and they'll continue to grow, but they will have limitations. Because biomass, we have to be careful. If you burn wood, that's again fossil fuel in some way. Coal is fossil fuel, right? Coal is nothing but wood that has been compressed and made into a denser material that can burn more efficiently than the wood you cut from the tree today. But then you got to be careful. It throws out a lot of carbon dioxide when you burn coal, when you burn wood. So you have to be careful. But if you burn wood chips or sawdust, it might be better. So you got to be careful how you use biomass. And geothermal, we have a lot of geothermal in different parts. We have geothermal in India. We have geothermal in Europe and US. But it's very difficult. You have to tap the hot water and then run the hot water through generators to convert hot water into power. So you will have a lot of what we call as footprint. You need a lot of real estate for it. But then geothermal will need geologists, will need hydrogeologists, power generation experts, and those kind of things. So I hope I've painted a picture. I know I went through these things very rapidly, but what I was trying to convince you guys, demonstrate, is there are tremendous opportunity. There are plenty of opportunities for careers in the renewable energy sector, what I call as the future of energy. And everybody can play a role. You got to find your passion. You got to find what you're really good at. And if you know that, go after it. And once you're passionate, you'll start enjoying. If you start enjoying, you'll excel in it. If you excel, other things will come. Money, fame, all that will come later, right? So the key thing is to figure out which one is what is going to tap your strengths, and then go after it. So I'm almost towards the end of my presentation, and I'm reminded of what Charles Darwin said several decades ago, and it's so true today. It's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It's the one that's most adaptable to change that survives, right? So if we don't change, it's going to be tough. Change is the only constant. They say, of course, they say taxes is the other thing. Taxes will never go away. But other than that, change is the only constant. So you've got to be constantly changing and adapting to change. And there are several examples in history. Civilizations have disappeared because they couldn't adapt to changes. The Inca civilization, the Harappan civilization, why did it disappear? Because they couldn't adapt to change and some new civilization came. Why have the species disappeared? Because they couldn't adapt. Why we don't have dinosaurs anymore? Because they ran out of food and became too hot for them. So unless you're adaptable, you will not survive. So you need intelligence, but that's not the most important. So that's the thought I want to leave behind. Think about how you can adapt to what's coming. Think about the future and look at all the skills. The skills you need are the same kind of skills you need, but you need to adapt and put it to use in a different way. And that's where I think the magic is, right? So I'm going to pause here. And if there are any burning questions, I'll be happy to answer. Otherwise, thank you very much for spending time. Saturday evening, I know you could be doing a lot of other things, fun things on Saturday. It's Saturday morning for me here. So the day is just breaking here in Houston. But I enjoyed, and I hope you enjoyed too, and you got something out of this session. But if you feel like discussing more, if you have any questions, or if you have any challenges, if you want to challenge me on something, I would love to hear from you. Here's my email address. It's my first name dot last name at gmail.com. And I'll be more than happy to engage with you. I would love to engage with young people on all these kind of key topics. You guys may have more ideas than what I do, and you may know better than how the future needs to look like and would look like. So let me know if you have anything, and I'll be happy to engage. But otherwise, hand it back to you, Geeta ji, Neeta ji, and let's see if you want to wrap it up.
Good evening, sir. Sir, with your permission, I would like to read the question. One they put in a chat. So, what job are you doing right now?
Oh, what job I am doing right now? That's a good question. So, as I said earlier, I'm in what is called as operational excellence. What it means is you have, say, a manufacturing plant or say an oil and gas production unit. How can we make this plant or this unit either do more with less or do the same with less, right? So how can we optimize what we have? So if you have, say, if you have a car, right? How can you make the car run longer, or getting 10 more kilometers out of a liter of petrol? How can you make it more efficient? How can you make the car last longer? If your car is built to last, say, 10 years, 20 years, how can you keep it running for another 10 years, another 20 years? That's what I do, right? So I go to all these big assets, as we call them, and I sit down with the senior people there and talk about what are the levers we have. We can pull: digitalization, optimization, data analytics, all these things, to try and see if we can improve the way we run these equipment, compressors, generators, these kind of things, and make them last longer and give us better. That's what I do.
Yes, sir. I'll go to the next question. Can CO2, that is carbon dioxide, be used to produce energy in any way? They're asking.
Great question. Great question. So CO2. So you have carbon, you have oxygen, right? Carbon is the heart of energy. Hydrocarbons. What is hydrocarbons? Combination of hydrogen and carbon. So carbon is very important. But to split carbon and dioxide is not so efficient. And then we are trying to reduce the amount of carbon we put back into the atmosphere, right? So why should we burn carbon to put carbon back into the atmosphere? So the way we can use carbon dioxide, actually, the best use of carbon dioxide is to put it back into the earth. So that's why we want to capture CO2. Whenever we burn something, we generate CO2. So this whole thing about net zero, right? Carbon neutral, these are buzzwords you're hearing. A lot of people are talking about it. Governments are talking about it. Companies are talking about it. The company I work for, I'm very proud of working for Shell Oil, Royal Dutch Shell, because we are committed to reducing the amount of methane and carbon we put into the atmosphere. We have made a commitment by 2050 or earlier, we're going to be net zero in our operations. That is, whatever carbon we burn to generate energy, we're going to put it back into the atmosphere, back into the earth in some way or form. So we're not going to add more carbon into the atmosphere, right? So CO2 we need to, first thing, reduce how much CO2 we produce. And whatever we produce, we need to make sure the least amount of that goes back into the atmosphere. I don't know whether I answered that question, but CO2 is not a source of energy, it's actually a source of our problem.
Yes, sir. So I'll move on to next question. Which one would be better or useful, artificial intelligence or design thinking? They're asking, sir.
Artificial intelligence, or what's the other question, ma'am?
Design thinking, sir.
Design thinking.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. Great question. I would say both are important. Both are very important. You can use artificial intelligence to predict things. We are talking about predictive maintenance. We are talking about proactive maintenance, right? We are using artificial intelligence to gauge things that are going to happen. Through artificial intelligence, we can now crunch massive amounts of data and predict things that's going to happen. So we are using, in the oil and gas industry, I now use technology, AI, to predict when my compressor is going to fail. Because if a big compressor fails, I lose millions of dollars a day in oil production. So I don't want my compressor to fail. But how do I know that? I use AI right now to predict. I can monitor thousands of parameters of the temperatures, pressure. These are just few of them. There are lots of other things in the compressor. Using that data to predict when it's going to fail and if it's going to fail at all. So I can take proactive action. So that's AI. But then design thinking is equally important because we got to think very differently. Tesla, the reason why I love Tesla as an electric vehicle is this car was designed not in an automotive plant, not by Ford, not by GM, who have been building cars for decades, right? It was designed in California. It was designed by a bunch of people who didn't know anything about making cars. And that is design thinking. They built a car ground up to have a driving experience that's totally different from anything else. Today, I can punch an address on my Tesla and it'll take me to that destination without me touching the wheel. That's design thinking. So it's very important.
Yes. Sir, actually, since in India, since last year it has started, artificial intelligence and the design thinking. Before that, we didn't know anything about that. So it's still a basic for them. So they just want to compare and check it out, which is the best. That's why they're asking.
Great question. Very good question. And I hope I answered it.
Yeah, it's clear, sir. It's clear. Savita, any more questions?
Yes, sir. Few more questions. Which are the main skills for energy-related jobs, sir? They're asking which are the main skills.
Main skills.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I think we can go back to these, right? So as you can see here, renewable energy, solar, wind energy, or if you talk about hydrogen, a lot of them require the same kind of skills that we have right now, engineering skills in applied sciences. when I say applied sciences, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying pure sciences is not good. Pure science is important because that's where all the research is done, right? So the materials we have today, the carbon fiber, the smart material, the wearables we have, we wear things, Apple Watch, whatever, right? These are all, they came about because of the research that was done in material science 20, 30 years ago. So material science is very important, but applied science is equally important, right? So applied mathematics, applied material science, data analytics, data science is massively important going forward. I was hearing a report recently. There are so many solar farms and wind farms coming. We don't have sufficient number of engineers and technicians to build this, to design these things and to put them up, right? You need construction people who know how to put huge towers safely. So you need technicians to put them up. You need technicians to maintain them. You need engineers to design and put them. So see, these are some of the skills that will be really useful going forward to engineering. Any engineering you take, instrumentation, automation, software, industrial design. I believe industrial design is going to become big. Somebody asked a question, design skills, right? Design thinking. So industrial design, how do you make devices more easier to use, right? The interface between machine and man and machine, that's where the future lies.
Thank you.
I hope I answered that.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So one more interesting question. Can polluted water be source of energy? I think it's a general question.
I love that question. If I had a prize, I would have given it to that the person who asked that question. So absolutely. So slightly related to that, I think, is biomass, right? So
Yes.
we know methane is generated from our waste, whether it's kitchen waste or any other waste. Methane is generated. Methane is a very good source of energy. And so now we have small gas plants that are located right next to massive landfills, right? Landfill is where you go and dump all your waste, your residential waste, industrial waste, everything gets dumped. It becomes into a massive mountain, right? But as it degrades, it generates methane and other gases, and you can extract the methane and convert that into energy. Now we know methane is very bad for carbon, in terms of carbon emissions and global warming, but methane is already there, right? So we are trying to use existing methane to convert to energy. And then that CO2 can be sequestered and we can make it carbon neutral. But we are not taking fresh methane and convert to energy. That's why biomass and waste, converting waste and biomass is very good, right? Provided the CO2 that comes out of that burning process is captured properly and put back into the earth. Similarly, water, right? Wastewater, if you can, the Bill Gates Foundation, right? Bill Gates Foundation has pumped in billions of dollars trying to figure out ways to make water safe, polluted water safe for drinking and irrigation. But the density of energy that's there in polluted water is very little. So it's very difficult to extract energy out of that because the energy density is very limited, but it can still be used. You clean that water, you can use it for agriculture, for lots of other purposes, right? I don't know whether I answered the question, but
yes, sir.
that's
Yes,
how
sir.
I look at it.
Yes, sir. I think one
Yes,
or two
Sarita?
last questions. How can a material at a certain temperature have all of its molecules at the same energy?
Wow. We have some very inquisitive minds here, and now they're pushing me to the edge of my knowledge. Okay, now I'm getting out of my depth here. I'm not a material science guy, I'm a geologist, and I'm struggling to get back my high school physics and chemistry. But let's see if I can answer that. So you're absolutely right. When you heat something, the energy levels go up in the atoms, and that's how you generate energy, right? So can you please read that question one more time, Neetaji?
Yeah, sure, I'll read, sir.
Oh, sorry, Savitaji.
No problem. How can a material at a certain temperature have all of its molecules at the same energy?
Great. So if it is the same molecule, they have the same atomic structure, right? So when you heat, they all respond to heat the same way. So if you have, for instance, carbon will react to heat in the same way, whether it is carbon in one form or the other, right? But if it is carbon and hydrogen and some other in one molecule, then individually they will react differently. Yes, and that's why when we have oil, right? Oil is a very complex chain of hydrocarbons. It's a poly chain, different carbons and hydrogens. It goes from simple CH4 to C10H something. So when you have these complex chains, when you start heating, you break up these chains, and that's why you get petrol, then you get diesel, then you get kerosene, and then as you start heating, you start distilling, and different things start coming out, and finally what you're left with is tar. So that is how they react differently to different levels of heating. I don't know whether I answered that correctly, but that's a good question. I must say, I will have to do some more research on it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Few more questions. How much is the speed energy of dams? They're asking.
How much is the
speed energy of dams?
Speed.
Yes.
Speed as in kilometers per hour.
Yes, I think that's the question.
You know what? You stumped me there. I really don't know. I'm sure what they do is, the little I know about hydro generation, hydropower, you start narrowing the river, and then when you send them down what is called as stock pipes, you send them at an inclined pace. Because of gravity, they pick up speed and they hit generators at a certain speed, and that spins the generator, and then that generates electricity. So honestly, I don't know at what speed they hit, but it's pretty fast. If you are in that water stream, you will be thrown away, I'm sure.
Okay,
Okay,
sir.
sir, we'll just end up with
we will wind up.
last question. One last very
there. Okay.
What is the difference between science and applied science, sir?
Great question. Let me try to answer that. So pure science is looking at the fundamentals of that science, right? So when you say pure physics, pure chemistry, so pure chemistry, for instance, chemistry, you're looking at molecule level interactions, you're looking at the way molecules are put together, atomic structures. You're trying to understand the basic fundamental things about that science, and you're trying to push what we know about the science, trying to push further, learn better, know better. Whereas applied science is you're taking that knowledge and applying it to make something happen, right? So for instance, we realized, so I'll give you an example. I'll try to give you an example. Pure science was when they did the research and found out that light molecules, right, electrons travel. They don't just travel in a straight line. They can move around, and that led to a lot of different things. Eventually, to televisions and other things. So one was pure science. They did pure research on electrons, and that led to a whole set of applications that came later, right? So as pure sciences, the research they did on space and other things led to the space program. The research done on materials led us to carbon fiber and other materials. So that's the difference. Pure science, applied science, both equally important. Without pure science, we can't have applied science. And similarly, just by doing research and not applying, doesn't make much sense, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. That was very informative to all.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Geeta, madam.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yes.
Ajith sir, our principal ma'am is there. She wants to talk to you.
Hey,
Okay.
Geetika, hi.
Your principal ma'am was waiting for a long time, but she
Yeah.
had to meet her daughter today, so she left the meeting session at.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, she was asking you, ma'am.
Dekhi, I just tamed in. Ajith Murthy, Namaskara. Hey, Gidiri. How are you?
Namaskara. Divyangidira.
Oh, Kannada, he knows.
Howdu? Okay, today, boys and
Bangalore is my hometown, by the way. Nan
Oh,
Kannadiga.
Howdu. So,
nice.
boys and girls, well, today was a momentous and a memorable day for all of us because one, we have got together and understood what really teaching learning means beyond the boundaries of school and beyond the boundaries of your country. And then we go global and interact with people all over the world who give us certain pointers about their perspectives of what it means to be an individual, a contributing individual, and in particular also to take out time, Ajith Murthy sir, and guide my children, give your point of view so that they get an idea about where they are heading, kind of some milestones as to how they have to move forward. Yes, there is no end to knowledge explosion, and many questions and many more. I think what I saw was that you have ignited the spirit of inquiry in our students, because the quality of questions that they were asking, I must submit that usually this is not the way the children start asking questions. It's only when you trigger curiosity and inquisitiveness in them, that's when they come out with such high order thinking questions, as we say. So so you've got the ball rolling, and knowledge will follow. That is there. Apart from that, you've mentioned all the sought after skills and how the children have to now make the most of it. I want to again say that the school is providing numerous programs where the children can hone their skills, right from design thinking and innovation ambassador program to the latest which we've launched today. It's all about being a change agent where the children can team up and be a part of the foundational literacy and numeracy program. And artificial intelligence already has been initiated in school.
Nice.
So that's been really wonderful. And so I think, my dear students, you've quite made out. Today was a day of sorts. Mr. Ajith Murthy, of course, is my classmate, and we are proud students to be the first batch of our school way back in 1982, isn't it? Yes?
Yeah. So, in front of your students, I think I had to call you Geetika Ji, but we go way back, right? Probably we were in the similar age group, your high school kids.
Yes.
We were in high school when we met,
Right.
and we have come a long way. But Geetika, I must thank you from the bottom of my heart, giving this opportunity to interact with your students, your staff, your teachers, Geeta ji, Savita ji, and Neeta ji. They have been really, and Sumuk, very, very. I mean, they are all devoted to this, and that's the beauty of an educator, right? You're passionate about it. I respect you and honor you, and I'm just happy that I could interact, and hopefully we'll have more questions, and I'll be happy to answer or engage going forward.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I do not know if you all could get a glimpse of our principal, Dr. Olivia Matthews. She was there in the beginning of the session.
She is still here. She's there. You can see her.
I'm told that she has left. Geeta, madam is there?
No, she was telling I had to meet my daughter, but I could not see ma'am on the screen. Sorry, extremely sorry.
Olivia, ma'am, are you all there? Are you there? And she's
Yes, I'm very much here, my dear. Two of my children are there. You and Ajith.
I know.
How can I be missing?
How are you, ma'am? It's such a momentous day. And
Absolutely.
And let ma'am come on the screen, please. Ma'am, can we hear you? And a very, very, very happy Teachers' Day to you, ma'am. We thought we will, make it a memorable day. Ajith Murthy ji's mother has also been a teacher in the same school under Olivia ma'am's leadership, but we are all teachers first. Ma'am, it's such a great moment to see you, and best wishes to us, some words from your side, and we are because you are there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Happy Teachers' Day to all of you, especially to Geetika and Ajith. They are my students. Ajith was my head boy when I was at HAL school. HAL stands for Hindustan Aeronautics Limited School. I was their first principal, and this was my first batch that went out for their exam. I am really happy that they are doing so well. God bless all of you and grant you strength to uplift the education system in your schools to greater heights. I have opened a school of my own called the St. Matthew's Academy. We are in a village and we've got 45 village students who speak beautiful English. I am very proud of that. Beautiful English. And I have taught their mothers how to dress, not like the village mothers, like you. Matthew's mothers. So I would be really happy if I could meet any of you all, Ajith and Geetika.
Ma'am, I promise you today, next time I'm in India, I'll come and visit you and come and visit you at your school. It's a promise.
Okay. That's if I'm alive, huh?
You will be. You've got to be until I come.
Soon. Don't worry, ma'am. It'll happen soon. Ma'am, nice to see you, and thank you so much for making it, because I know you have to take out extra time to make it happen, to be here with us. We need your blessings, and all my children of my school as well, ma'am.
My children are my priority.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
So
yes.
I have to take out time.
Right.
The young or old.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
We are very young. We are very, very young.
Yes.
Are you sure? I don't know about this.
That's okay.
Ajith, I would have never recognized you if I had to see you otherwise.
Yeah.
And if I was not told that you were Ajith Murthy, because you're bald.
Yes.
Right, ma'am.
No, that's a hairstyle, man. I'm not bald.
Yes.
Okay.
Did I teach you style?
Oh yes, you're very stylish.
Very stylish, ma'am.
I may be.
Yeah.
But did I teach you style? I know I used to be very particular about your uniforms.
Exactly. That's where it comes from.
That's style. That's uniform in
style.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes. Ma'am, thank you so much. And Ajith, our happy Teachers' Day wishes to your mummy also, with fondest regards. And I still remember her, tall lady with specs, and in her simplicity was the way she, especially with the younger children, the way she managed herself so well. Thank you so much. Feeling blessed. I feel very good that, we've connected after years. And ma'am, we will carry your best wishes to our colleagues and batchmates. Ajmal is here.
Ajit.
Yes.
Please give my love to your mother. And what is your little brother doing? That naughty little fella with curly hair.
He's there, ma'am. He's a big fan. Ajith has to tell. Ajith will tell.
Oh, you're talking about my brother.
Then who? He gave.
Oh yeah, sorry. Oh yeah. He runs his own consulting firm. He's one of the leading experts on lean manufacturing, Kaizen technique. He's actually advising the government of India and the government of Gujarat. So he's done very well for himself. I'm very proud of him.
Give him my love also, please. And
thank you.
Tell him to get in touch with me.
Absolutely. Yes, I'll do that.
Okay.
Geetika, wanted to wish all of you teachers, wonderful Teachers' Day. I really respect you for what you do. all of you. This is one of the most noble professions, teaching, education, and you're doing a great service. So please continue, and I'm glad I could interact with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again, Ajith. Namaskara, madam. And my dear teachers, thank you for this lovely program that you all have put in together. Ajith sir, thanks a lot. It meant a lot, your presence. And boys and girls, you see that we are all students of the same school, but all of us have followed our passion, and God has been kind. And we have been at it, and we've let no stone unturned. There will be challenges. Life is not easy. You have to go through the burn and churn. You have to go through the birth pangs, and then only things will happen. Today or tomorrow it will. Together we all can. And with this, I thank everyone. Geeta ma'am has been working back end, and not only Geeta madam, our entire institution, it is said that it takes a village to raise a child, and truly so. We have our own principal ma'am, Olivia ma'am. She's working with village children. The point that I'm trying to make is it's not easy. Talking, getting marks, scores is fine, but more than that is the values which are nurtured in you. For example, we've all connected today on this day, memorable day. Ma'am is there. So little things, small things, they don't have to be big things, but emotional connect is something which will be able to help us to tide over any problem that we have in our life. This is my viewpoint. And be connected, and all the best to everybody. Thank you. I know we went on.
Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Bye.
Bye-bye. 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 See you.
Thank you.
Thank you.